Hi, my name is Brooke Lloyd, and I will be talking about Vygotsky. Les Simonovich Vygotsky was born in 1896. He died at the young age of 37 in 1934. He died of tuberculosis, taking care of his family that were sick. He was brought up in an upper class, intellectual Jewish family in Russia. He did not have any formal education in psychology. He actually studied law, and he taught art, and he taught theater, and he influenced the cultural life around him in that way. He actually had a very short career of only 10 years in psychology. Vygotsky is most known, as far as his impact on education, for his social development theory. He proposed that children's cognitive development was mainly transpiring through cultural relationships, social relationships, and language. This theory was actually in opposition to Jean Piaget's theory that children's development comes before learning. In contrast, Vygotsky theorized that through interactions with adults or more knowledgeable peers, that higher mental processes can precede development. This is a quote. The Vygotskian approach emphasizes the development of the individual in social interaction. Specifically, the individual is formed through the internalization of activities carried out in the bosom of society and through the interaction that occurs within the zone of proximal development. Cognition is a social product that is achieved through interaction. End quote. Vygotsky, his work is based on two main principles. So, one is the more knowledgeable other, the MKO, which is kind of self explanatory. It refers to an adult or a peer that aids in development. The ZPD, or the zone of proximal development, refers to the achievements that are accomplished with guidance from a skilled partner and achievements that can be accomplished independently. A child's ZPD can be determined by two assessments. One is the IQ test, and the other is an assessment of non-independent problem solving through collaborative learning in a classroom. Vygotsky emphasized the idea of scaffolding learning, in which a student is given instruction and then gradually allowed to accomplish skills on their own. Quote, much of the momentum for the development of cognitive psychology can be traced to Luria's and Vygotsky's developmental theories of the functional relation between language and behavior. Vygotsky described a developmental progression in language control over behavior, from talking aloud to internalized talking to silence. End quote. Vygotsky's life and the direction intellectually is exemplified in a symbolical way in the main tenet of his theory, which is the prevalence of the cultural over the biological in the life of humans. The socio-historical emphasis that defines Vygotsky's work is focused on the need to redefine abnormality and to refrain from referring to individuals as qualitatively different or a special race. In Moscow, Vygotsky's approach, his psychological theories were shaped through his interactive work in education with children with disabilities. He proposed the importance of understanding those with disabilities on a new social plane, instead of viewing them as learning disabled. Quote, Vygotsky asserted that being deaf or blind is not primary, since these conditions are not felt to be disorders by the subjects themselves, but only secondary as a result of social experience. Vygotsky's educational ideas are still being used today in relation to the education of the disabled. Productive research based on the Vygotskian approach is being carried out in an attempt to examine areas such as the psychology of blindness, auditory deficiencies, cerebral palsy, and autism. His educational theory, with the concepts of ZPD and the use of mediational tools, and his writings turn out to be useful for determining solutions applicable for those with learning disabilities. I agree with Vygotsky's theories in that children should be looked at as an individual for who they are, not for their disabilities, and they should be treated as such, as valuable individuals made in God's image, not as disabled. So, thank you very much.